Now, say my name.
The Rolling Bad Podcast.
You're goddamn right.
Welcome to the Rolling Bad Podcast, episode number 29. Coming to you from the desolate wastelands of Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're recording on July 8th, and I am your host, Elric. And with me are
Bill Costello
and James Tapia.
Tonight's episode, we're going to go over our general topics. And in the realm of lore, we'll be discussing what to do to keep your AOS mojo going in the age of 40K currently. What you can do to kind of stay focused and stay interested, I guess, as it were.
Yeah. We're also going to cover the 2-year anniversary of AOS.
That's true.
Yeah, just a little bit on that. So,
and I believe James has a event to recap.
Yeah,
hopefully. And you didn't lose and get the wooden spoon. Do a show?
Yep.
Okay. The Realm of the New Dawn, where we're going to talk about all the stuff that hasn't come out for AOS and a bunch of stuff that came out for 40K.
Yeah, pretty bleak. But, I mean, we have the General's Handbook 2017. Looks like it's going to be fairly soon.
Yeah.
Path to Glory
Yeah.
will probably be even sooner than that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some stuff.
And we
to
just
look
had
forward
Skirmish come out. So.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, they've been drip feeding us AOS stuff, but you have to understand they're launching their big money maker.
Right.
So I don't really begrudge them because all the 40K guys had to sit around and watch while we were getting book after book after release after release. Can't really say too much about that. The biggest thing, I think, the biggest news from the home front, the Warhammer community site, is they put out a request for questions, fact items, rules questions, all that stuff on the Facebook site.
Basically just asking for feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Because it's like an open-ended type thing. It's not specifically for FAQ type things or whatever. It's just, I don't know, let us know
Thoughts,
what's going
comments,
on. Yeah.
You know.
And we're going to pay a couple of guys to dig through way too many comments.
Yeah, I almost feel bad for the community guys because
that's brutal.
It's going to be, oh gosh. But it is really cool that they're doing that. You know, this is something that we haven't seen in 15 years. Back when they were doing it before, it was send a letter to
the
GW.
Carrier pigeon.
Yeah, and you might see your response in White Dwarf. But nowadays, it's pretty instant feedback. And, of course, some of their feedback is priceless lately.
Sure, definitely.
If you're not looking at their Facebook site and see some of the amazing answers they put out, you're missing some of the best comedy on the internet.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, the new White Dwarf?
Yeah, the new White Dwarf dropped.
I have not looked through it yet.
I have. There is actually 0 AOS content in there, which is kind of sad, but kind of understandable. The biggest thing, you know, of course, for 40K, the Primaris Captain and the Librarian released today, so those are on the open market.
Yeah, Bill won't let me look at his.
Oh, God, here you go. They better be in shrink wrap when you're done.
Oh, I make no promises. Man.
But also in the 40K side, they're releasing 2 new starter sets. Now, they, of course, released Dark Imperium, the flagship starter set. The $160, oh my God, you get everything you need to play. They're also doing a No Fear starter set for $80 and a First Strike starter set for $40. Difference between the two of them are, you know, the bigger set gets 31 models, the smaller one gets 15 models, but they're the easy build press fit models. But each one of them comes with play mats. The big one comes with a 4x4 game mat, the smaller one with a 2x2 game mat. The box itself turns into a piece of terrain. So honestly, you can get going right away with either one of those boxes. And it's like Ryan said in the last podcast, it's the 3 graduated steps to get into the game. You have a $40 level, an $80 level, and of course the $160 big time level. So I think it's really smart on their part. They've done the same thing with Age of Sigmar, except it's happened over the last 2 years.
Right.
Did you guys see those open war cards that they're putting out?
Yeah, so I hadn't
play?
really read about them. What do they do exactly?
Okay, so with the open war cards, you have 4 major decks: a sudden death deck, a ruse deck, an objective deck, and a twist deck. And what you're doing is you're dealing these cards blindly, and it's setting the scenario for your game. It's going to be like the ruse and the twist, I believe, you only get those if you're the person playing with a smaller army. And this is aimed at open play, so you're not looking at points and power levels and stuff. You're just taking your stuff out of a box and saying, here's what I got. And these cards will give you a framework to play the game. It gives you the objective cards, give you something to fight over. The ruse cards gives the lower powered player something to throw at the other guy when he least expects it. It gives a little bit of structure to open play so that you're not just saying, I'm going to take all my models out, put them on the table, and let's fight. You actually have something to do, some goal in mind. So, I mean, I think it's a really interesting thing, and I kind of hope they take this idea and run with it, and maybe even do an AOS deck like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting the vibe that they will be doing this for Age of Sigmar as well.
Yeah, so. I kind of hope so, because it looks interesting. And without knowing how, the actual mechanics work, because it just dropped in today's White Dwarf, it looks really interesting. So I'm hoping they'll work out pretty well. Some of the other things they announced are the easy build kits for intercessors, reavers, plague marines, and poxwalkers. And these are your snap press fit, one-piece marines where the backpack is just on a big post and you just snap it together. Super simple, easy to build.
Yeah. So I like the reavers, but I don't get them. I don't get the idea of, I guess they're supposed to be sneaky marines or whatever. They just have a combat blade and a heavy bolt pistol, which I would imagine is probably just a strength 5 pistol or something like that. In considering how expensive point-wise Primaris Marines tend to be for guys that are only 2 wounds with a 3-up save, I just don't understand where they... Maybe a few months down the road when more and more has come out for this army, they'll make more sense or something like that. And also it looks like 3 come in the box.
Yes, a sergeant and 2 regular guys.
But the unit is 5 to 10.
That's what I think. Yeah, I'm not. Don't quote me on that, but I think the little PDF said 5 to 10.
Okay.
So it's a weird thing.
Yeah.
I don't get the reavers myself. I think they're supposed to be that in between fast attack, something in between a scout and a real marine.
Yeah, they're Primaris Scout Marines.
Yeah, that's kind of,
and they're just getting rid of Scout Marine. Well, they're not getting rid of.
No.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they look cool, and I will be adding them to my Primaris army for sure, but not until the
real kit.
The real kit comes out. Yeah.
And the other thing, I'm wondering if maybe the reavers are designed to be the flagship of their easy to build line, and they might not have any kit. Even the kit you buy with the 5 or the 10 in it might be the same sort of construction.
No,
I mean,
I think the intercessors fill that role. Just the basic bolter bros.
Yeah.
They seem to be all over everything. In fact, I got an email from them that showed a new paint kit or something that has a single intercessor in it or something.
Which is what Ryan asked for last week, so they're very responsive.
Yeah, they're definitely listening specifically to us and everything that we ask for.
That's right. So thanks, GW, for that nod.
Waiting for more stuff for the Primaris.
Yeah.
I don't know, that repulsor.
The repulsor,
that
draft tank. And yeah, that might be fun.
Speaking of which, 10 codexes in before December. Or before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully 10. I think
that's what they said.
They're aiming for 10.
Yeah.
Well, if they're aiming, the production schedules are such they know what's coming out.
Sure.
Sure.
But you never know what hiccups.
That's true. Along the way.
But that's still pretty exciting considering, I don't know, I'm very interested to see what will be in them, and then if we will see a change in their content halfway through or whatever, kind of like we did with Age of Sigmar, where we had, I was thinking it was Iron Jaws were the last ones that didn't have their own spells and all that stuff, and then we got that, and then it seemed like Stormcast got a wide variety of
Yes.
items based on things, and now we have that for the last 4 books.
I don't think we're going to see that in 40K. You know, Reese over at the Frontline Gaming over there, Signals from the Frontline podcast video stream, he was kind of talking about, and you know, he's on the inside, so he doesn't want to say what's going on, but he's mentioning about how certain things weren't addressed in the FAQ that GW put out, and he's like, you know, kind of do the math. If it didn't get FAQ'd, might be a reason for that. So I think they've got, I don't think you're going to see that gradual build up like Sigmar did. I think they've got it all figured out for the books that they have ready to go.
Yeah, well, and I can't remember if they said it in kind of one of their hype posts, or maybe Reese said, I don't remember, but something about how essentially all the codexes are being play tested and written essentially at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, why they'll be able to drop 10, but, you know, in the next 5 months. But yeah, so if that's the case, then probably won't see something sneak in like that, I would imagine.
I think we'll see everybody get the same treatment at the beginning, and then maybe down the line you'll see extra.
What do you think the first new race is going to be?
New race?
Yeah, because they said new races for
They
40K.
did. Squigs? No. Sorry, that was for Rob Signs. I don't know. I don't really know what they could do. You know, you have that one Tau fleet, one Tau expansion that got lost.
Chaos Tau?
So, well, they might come back as something completely different. Maybe instead of being libertarian fishmen, they come back as, I don't know, Republican fishmen. So, fascist fishmen.
There you go.
Do you think they're new? When they say new races, do you think they mean like new races, or do you think they mean kind of like a different take on Tau or a different take on?
Or reviving an old one like Gene Stealer Cult or
Something like that.
I don't know, because the fluff has a ton of pretty established races like the Hrud, and some people still say, you know, squats have potential or whatever, and so they could just make an army for them. But they could, I mean, the Tau were something completely new, and they just slotted them in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it'd be interesting. I'm good with either one.
I kind of just wonder if, you know, you have that whole Space Dwarf motif to work with, and you can have Chaos Space Dwarves with the big rift in the middle of the galaxy right now. Anything can pour out. Anything.
Sure, I really don't want. I don't want to see just chaos versions of stuff, right?
No,
like,
and I don't think they're.
I think they went through a phase of that a long time ago.
Yeah.
And well, they so much as said that at one point. They were like, oh, we'll make this and then make a chaos version of it, and then make this and make a chaos. And it's like, okay, you know, there's only so many spiky pieces and top knots you can put on something before it doesn't really look that much different, because everything's covered in skulls anyway.
Yeah, it's all got skulls. So.
But I don't know, maybe I'm kind of hoping for both, because I think there are some cool races. It'd be sweet if they actually did an Exodite Eldar bit, since they expanded Harlequins out to be such a actual faction. That could be cool, you know, or maybe the Hrud, or just some of those. And then it'd be interesting if they just introduced a whole new, because there's huge chunks of the galaxy that aren't really that explored,
and that have winked into existence recently with the new rift. You know, you can, whatever your mind has in it, you know, I'd hate to see something funky happen with one of the established races. You know, you got monsters and alien predators with Tyranids. You've got Necrons to be your evil robot mechanoid men. So a lot of the cliche things are already filled. So I think what we see next is going to be off the wall, weird. Like, you know, you were saying maybe the Hrud or something like that from antiquity that you know just enough about, but they can still blow the doors all open on it.
Well, and there's tons of stuff you could do with just humans.
Yeah.
You know, a whole group of humans in a part of the galaxy that hasn't been discovered yet, that are just as technologically advanced, but that haven't fallen to chaos and don't follow the Imperium.
Yeah, right.
And when one of those factions stumble across them, they can hold their own, because you know, they just happen to be way out on the ass end of space.
Yeah, we have iPads and you have what?
Yeah.
Data slates? Oh, throw that away.
Is that a Zune?
Yeah.
Get that out of here.
Ooh, scary Space Marine.
The
You can
Imperium,
fit 300
you know the
songs on
Imperium
that.
uses Zunes.
Yeah, you know they do. So, yeah, so, you know, there's so many places they can go.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun to watch. It'll definitely be fun to watch.
For sure.
So, other thing, the other 40K thing is going to be they're doing a getting started with 40K book, sort of as I think it's going to be expanded magazine. It's kind of like the one they did for Sigmar that shows you the rules, how to play, how to collect. It's definitely aimed at the complete total new person.
That's
but
fine,
it's
because there's going to be lots of new people getting in, just like there was for Age of Sigmar.
And it'll always be one of those good things to have in your bag when you're at the game store and somebody comes up to the game and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" You can go, "Here."
You just hand them that and ignore them.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, listen, pal, I'm rolling dice here.
Yeah.
But no, it's a good way to give them something to look at while you're actually, doing game stuff.
Sure.
And so they don't feel like they're just being
like
ignored.
when we were doing Coalescence and that guy, we had a new guy show up.
And Dakota was there.
And it's kind of hard in the middle of a big event to stop and explain everything. You can be like, read this and then ask me questions.
And Ryan was really trying to be, engaging and all that stuff, but he's also having to do an event.
Sure.
So, it's something, it's a good resource to have in your arsenal of getting new players into the game stuff.
Definitely.
And then, of course, the Forge World, Magnus and Lehman Russ fight. On the uphill side, and Lehman Russ coming up the hill, as it were, and Magnus is just... He's definitely doing something Psyker-ish to him, but Lehman is just like, yeah, you know what? I'm a bad dog. I'm here for you.
Yeah, you're not the first Primarch I've had to kill, but we can't talk about it because I'm actually a traitor. What?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Elric, everyone heard that. Inside voice.
Oh, yeah. It's all right. Everybody knows that Space Wolves and Dark Angels are traitor Marines. At least I hope they know.
And this is why we lose listeners. Well, I happen to agree with you, but whatever.
Yeah, it is some fantastic object source lighting on Magnus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a beautiful... I bought the Abaddon versus Loken set from Forge World thinking that, I'll make it look just like the Forge World picture. Yeah, right. Okay. Maybe 20 years from now.
Yeah. Hats off to Sam Egan. He's the one that sculpted.
Sculptor?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, he really that Lehman Russ sculpt is really, he's got that wild-eyed look of, you would think of a rabid dog. I mean, Primarch. But really, that's pretty much the new stuff that's come out. As an adjunct to our new Dawn that I'm popping on these guys right now, because they're not expecting it, want to do a quick shout out to another podcast that hit the airwaves just the other day. There's a new podcast out there called AOS Shorts. It's a guy in New Zealand, Dan Shorts, at Antipodian. He's doing a short podcast. It's not long. It's kind of like Ben Curry's AOS Daily, wherein he's delving more into pure tactics. And his first episode was on list building. The next episode was how to operate at a tournament. And I think the first one was like 9 minutes. The next one was 10 minutes. So he's going to be doing these reasonably often, I guess. And I found it to be very engaging, very fun to listen to. Brought up a lot of things I hadn't thought about. So, but other than that, that's all we've got for New Dawn. So we will move on to creation.
The realm of creation. We're going to talk about what we've been up to in the hobby the last 2 weeks. Elric?
Not much these last couple weeks for me, unfortunately. I need to finish assembling all the overlords so I can finally... Well, even all the stuff I have now isn't everything that I'm going to have, so still going to have to add to it. That's the number one priority. That and the terrain that we purchased for the Rolling Bad Rumble. Got to build and paint that as well, so...
Yeah.
But yeah, I have not been up to anything. You guys?
Yeah. I finished the Hell Fort, building the Hell Fort. That was kind of an exercise in, oh God, my fingers hurt. Because I have little punctures all along my hand from all the damn spiky parts.
Yeah, it's pretty spiky.
It is. It's very spiky. But when it goes all together, it looks really, really cool. I have one piece left. I still have to do the Crucible. And after that's done, then I'm going to hit them all with, primer and start working on the paint job there. So that's getting ready for the Rolling Bad Rumble as well. I painted those 2 Numinous Oculums, but they're still works in progress. So
fair enough.
Yeah. So it's been terrain 2 weeks. So for me, anyway.
That's generally what it is leading up to running an event. So.
Yeah, kind of getting ready. So, James, what do you got?
Oh, let's see. I started doing some test models for Elric's Overlords.
They look amazing.
Yeah,
I think anyway.
They look pretty good.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with the infantry. The boats are a little bit... It's my first time painting big, flat surfaces. Never did 40k tanks or anything like that. So it's a learning process, but...
I like the way they look, although there's so much open stuff on there. I don't envy you having to do those. I really don't.
So as soon as Elric gets me his list, we can paint that up. And then this week I was working on finishing my Lord Change.
Ooh.
Because he's like tabletop ready, but not painting standard ready. But he's probably going to go on the back burner for now.
Really?
I think that's all I have.
So, yeah, we've been, I guess, just middling getting hobby done stuff. So
Yeah. Calm before the storm.
Yeah, we're into that big time because we've got Slobberknocker GT to be ready for, and then hot on the heels of that, we have Rolling Bad Rumble. So
Before I put my 16-hour days in
Yeah.
on the weekends painting Elric's army, yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, so let's start recapping some battles that I haven't had. So
The Realm of Battle, where James is going to basically tell us how his tournament went, because Bill and I weren't able to get our game in, unfortunately.
Yeah, so last time I was missing because I was at a tournament. I think JJ's Hobbies is the store. I drove out there, did the whole left at 4 o'clock in the morning.
oh my god,
I got sleep this time because I wasn't building and painting stuff
Oh,
for the night
good.
before.
good.
That helps.
So I decided to take my Zinch out for a spin. And it was really good. Who's with Doom was down there. He was playing some stuff. It wasn't as big as last time. Last time we had 16. This time was 8 people. So
Oh, okay.
a little bit smaller,
Huh,
which I think
still.
ties into our topic of why I think it was smaller. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it was good. Played some 3 games. First game I played against Alex Harrison's South Coast list.
Nice.
Is interesting. I kind of just threw stuff at the wall. Since it was kind of my first time. I mean, I've been playing the Zinch Army, but I haven't been playing with the Skyfires and the Shaman and the
The
Change
stuff
Host.
you've added.
Yeah, because I was playing my Conflagration before.
Yeah.
I know how that one works, but I was just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to stress test this and see what it can do. Kind of threw it against that one. Landed up barely losing. I had a chance to win it on a charge to get near. It was Blood and Glory. If I would have got a charge in, I would have held all 4 objectives and
Nice.
got it. Or I think it was, sorry, not Blood and Glory, Taken Hold, but would have got it. The next game I played Iron Jaws
Nice.
with a Weird Fist.
Yeah. What happened?
My Lord Change had deja vu. He thought he was seeing the past, but it was actually what was happening
Yeah.
in the moment.
He's still suffering from that concussion, huh?
Yeah.
You know, they say there's after effects for weeks. From,
Yeah.
from a beatdown like
He
that.
thought it was a little PTSD, but yeah. So he got stomped with the Foot of Gork, turn 1, taken off the board.
Take it off. Oh, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. So
That's a little different with the Weird Fist. That's kind of what that's geared to do as opposed to just like throwing dice in a desperate cast. But
yeah.
Did the Weird Fist do anything else the rest of you feel? Or
No. Well, we were playing. It was in 3 places of power,
oh, that's
and he had the Shaman, and then just a Maw Crusher.
wow. No War Chanters.
Nope. I don't think he had enough points for a War Chanter.
Yeah.
Everything.
If you want the Weird Fist to work, you kind of need to sink a lot of points into it, and because you'll generally do Ard Boys.
Yeah, he had 3 units of Ard Boys.
Yeah, to do the casting bonus, and then you have a lot of dudes just sitting around one shaman.
Yep, 30
hoping
guys
to-
is
yeah,
doing that, and then he had, I think, 6 to 9 Gorgruntas plus the
Maw Crusher.
Maw Crusher, and that was about it.
That's an army.
I think he had another formation with the between the Maw Crushers and the.
Oh, Gore Fist?
Yeah, maybe he had a Gore Fist or
That
something.
allowed him to move everything
Yeah, I
15
think
inches?
something like that because he was up in my grill turn 1.
Okay.
So that's why he
Interesting.
he charged with his Maw Crusher, killed a unit of blues. They're painted blue.
So it could be Carrick Acolytes, it could be Bloodletters, who knows?
Yeah, he killed them, and then he was kind of just standing in the middle of the army, and the Skyfires, and everyone else just turned around and shot him off the board.
Now, did he ever roll any doubles?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So I think he rolled like an 11 or something for that first casting or something. He didn't. I mean, but it was kind of like over. He kind of did that, and then I finished off the Crusher, and then I think I got a double turn, and then just shot the Shaman off the vortex, and I scored 1 point in the scenario, and then that was it. Because
yeah, 3 places of power is funny like that.
So yeah, that was game 2, and then game 3 I played Khorne Bloodbound.
Uh-oh.
With a horde of Reavers and Blood Warriors and just mass bodies.
Lots of small units so that he can max out.
No, actually, there's 20 man.
Really?
Unit of Blood Reavers. I think the Blood Warriors were like 5. They might have been 5 or 10. But he was playing a Gore Pilgrim list with the banner, and kind of hurt my casting turn 1. He got first. He decided to go first, which I'm not sure you want to do against the Tzeentch gun line. He insisted that was the right move.
Well, you do want to get stuck in as quick as you can.
Yeah, but he didn't have enough movement to. He was just,
You'd rather shoot for the double turn.
I think I would shoot for the double turn.
Yeah, because if you don't get in there, you're just cannon fodder for potentially 2 turns.
Sure, but you also don't. Aggressive armies are kind of weird like that, where like you can say, well, I need the double turn, so I'll go for the second. And if I have to go first, then it's like, well, do I just kind of stand here and then try to play for the double turn later? It's like, well, no, you kind of need to get.
Yeah,
and if that means you eat it for a turn or possibly even 2, then so be it. Yeah. Eventually, you got to get stuck in.
Yeah, and this is actually where one of the cases where actually all my little horror shooting actually did stuff, because it's a whole bunch of naked Khorne guys.
Yeah.
With the 6-up save, so every wound going through actually does something.
Did you have flamers?
No, it was just...
Oh, really?
It was just 80 horrors and then the Skyfires, and between them and even like the Lord of Changes stuff, I mean, it was just... It's 100 to 110, 120 shots or something, and wow.
So it was like 2 horde armies, huh?
It was 2 horde armies,
that's
and
cool.
It didn't last to it lasted to turn 3 maybe by then. And plus he set up his army. I don't think he had played with much of the special terrain, because I had my scenery dice, and he set up a lot of it within 3 inches of the mystical terrain.
That hurts.
And he had 2 or 3 units that failed it 2 or 3 times in a row.
Oh no!
And just sat there drooling.
That sucks.
I mean, it wasn't like. I think it was just like a unit of like Blood Warriors. I mean, it wasn't anything like crazy. It was like a Slaughter Priest and Blood Warriors that just sat there for.
Yeah, but that can kind of get in the way of your maneuvering and.
Well, he was just kind of like coming up, and it was just like evaporating as it moved forward, and then I got the double turn or something, and it was like, okay, Reavers are gone turn 1, Blood Warriors are all gone turn 2. You don't have much left other than a couple of Wrathmongers and some characters, which just wasn't enough to do much.
So as Bill would say, they melted like snowflakes falling to reality.
Yes, that's what I would say. Ghoul Patrol.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the 3 games with the 2 wins and the loss, plus all the hobby scores and everything else. I ended up taking first again.
Nice.
Yeah, not too bad. Jules landed up taking best hobbyist away.
Nice.
Cool.
Again, so got some swag on. Which pretty much covered the ass out there, which is cool. I mean, 3 games of Warhammer is good. times, even if I don't win anything. So
Yep.
And Springs isn't that far. It's like, what, 4.5 hours?
about 4.5 hours away.
Well,
It's not
the
too
way you
bad.
drive, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, never mind. It's a little further.
It's supposed to be. It's about 5.5 Google.
It's 5.5.
Value.
I was gonna say it's 5.5 for me because
Yeah.
I make
It's
that
about-
trip really reasonably often.
It's about 4 3/4
Yeah,
the way I drive.
about 20 minutes.
This is not to say that he would exceed the speed limit in any way
right.
or violate any other traffic type laws. We are not condoning such behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. Got some ITC points.
Right on.
So
Very
Where are
cool.
you in the ranking for Disciples of Zinch?
Disciples of Zinch, I was actually talking about with this. I think I was looking at the top. I think he's only got like 2 or 3 games. His average is 105 points.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it's a little. You gotta be winning first places with that, or else
yeah.
Yeah.
you're not in the run-in. I was going. I mean, Slobberknocker's coming up. I think I played this season badly because I have one game with Stormcast, one game with Zinch,
Oh,
Yeah.
Zinch.
and then I might take Sylvaneth the Slobberknocker as one last hurrah, so it doesn't help my faction points.
Yeah.
Well, what's the Stormcast situation like?
They're pretty low. They're low-hanging fruit right now. I think it's like 90 points average.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, that's just a couple of second places, and you got it.
What about
Yeah.
what about Sylvaneth?
Sylvaneth, they're hanging around the same spot.
Yeah.
Like, but I just don't know if I'm gonna have enough games left in the season because we got what? Rolling Bad Rumble, Slobberknocker.
And you're not going to make it to SoCal Open, huh?
No, I'm not doing SoCal Open.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple RTTs
Couple
here.
RTTs.
I guess maybe I could do with Sylvaneth. A couple RTTs and then.
I don't see
OVO.
why not, because they're actually not a very good army. They're not as good as people make them out to be.
They are, especially
Yeah,
after that
so-
Nerf bag that's going to come in
Yeah.
GH 2017.
Once you get your points justification.
Wow. Does anybody know the number to 911? Because I think I'm having the big one right now. Elric just said that Sylvaneth are not a thing.
Yeah, that
on
was
record.
hashtag sarcasm.
I didn't hear
Like
the hashtag
the lady
at the
that
beginning.
photoshopped a cheek piercing on her baby. Sarcasm, people. Sylvaneth are bent. No, just kidding.
But they're susceptible to mortal wounds.
They are very susceptible.
Hashtag triggered.
Yeah. Right on. So, overall, good event.
Yeah, good.
When's their next one?
I think it's going to be in August.
Oh,
Yeah, in August with Slobberknocker being
Yeah.
first week and then Rolling Bad another,
2
what,
weeks after
2 weeks
that.
after that.
August is terrible.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
yeah, I can't do it. August and September are blacked out where I work. So,
Yeah.
won't, won't.
But yeah, so some good games.
Nice.
Sweet. The Realm of Lore, where we're going to cover 2 different things today. First up is going to be how to keep yourself and your players in your group interested in Age of Sigmar during what looks to be the year of 40K coming up shortly. I mean, we've seen it this month's White Dwarf. There's not a lot of Sigmar in it. Of course, last month was the drop of the new 40K. And we kind of have to understand that there was a good long period of time where everything that came out was for Sigmar, and the 40K guys had to deal with this. But we also are dealing with the double-edged sword of we got a lot of 40K converts to come to Age of Sigmar. Now we're in danger of losing those new players, as well as having existing players switch game systems because the sci-fi setting might be more appealing to them. So we were going to kind of cover how to keep interest going in your game group. So who wants to start?
I will. You don't. Just jump to 40K. Screw it. Age of Sigmar's dead.
All right, we're closing this podcast down.
Game was barely keeping afloat as it was. I was waiting for them to switch back to square bases. They didn't do it. GW doesn't want my money.
Did you need some lighter fluid for your
Yeah,
models?
really, yeah, exactly. Let's go in your backyard and film
right.
a video.
All right, YouTube, here we come. So on that note, I guess we're done.
Yeah, it was fun.
Now, one of the first things that we came up with was Skirmish just released not too long ago. And if you haven't played the skirmish system, you really need to look at it and give it a try. But also, it's a great gateway drug for new people. And also, it'll keep those existing 40K guys that have drifted back to 40K. It can keep them involved in the fantasy setting.
Yeah, plus it's a great way, like you said, to get new people in because you don't need that many models.
Yeah.
And you could bring in new people in this lull. And that way, when Age of Sigmar does kick off again here, I'm assuming at least by the beginning of the next year, that the new people that you bring in will potentially be ready to go for that. Mm-hmm. You know, have been slowly building a force or whatever in anticipation.
Well, and you kind of have to look at it. They were probably foreseeing how this was all going to go down. They released Skirmish. They've announced Path to Glory. So there is a ramp-up mechanic. You're going to go from Skirmish, where you have 5 or 10 models on the board. Now you're going to get into Path to Glory, where you're going to take those 5 to 10 models and turn them into a much bigger force, but gradually. You don't have to buy a $500 army right off the bat, get it painted, and let's go. Right. You'll be doing that over time. So I think they kind of were smart about how they were going to keep AOS on life support during the big 40K release, and you know they have to support 40K. It's not a
sure. Yeah,
this is not something we didn't see coming. We can, we were just talking a little bit earlier. We can see there's going to be no battle tomes probably for AOS released before January, but we are going to get the Path to Glory. We are going to get General's Handbook 2. So we're going to be playing with what we got now, and we're going to have all these different new ways to play. So we'll probably be in pretty good shape. Some of the other things that we were talking about doing is doing campaigns, doing ongoing, either whether it's an escalation league or, a friendly local game store, just campaign league where you do a ladder league or something like that, but just something to keep that interest level going.
Yeah, I think, for people that are pretty tournament minded, I think their drive is going to continue regardless, because they're always, looking for that next tournament and either getting a new list ready, getting units in an existing army ready, whatever. I think we're kind of speaking more towards the group of people that aren't, just going from next event to next event.
Right.
So this would be the time to really try out, like you're saying, campaigns, bite off something new that you haven't done before. You can also incorporate the numerous battle plans that are all throughout all the different books that are already out. There's hundreds at this point of different missions that you could try. Give them a whirl,
Yeah, the narrative, this is the year of narrative, and it's really only scratched the surface. When you look at those 4 books that came out, there are so many scenarios in there. You could spend the next 6 months playing one a week and probably still not get through all of it.
Well, not only that, but every battle tome has missions in them as well that I'm sure most people don't play, but, try them.
They're probably worth a look.
Yeah. They're in there for a reason.
Exactly.
Something to do. And those are the kind of things that could fit in real well with a campaign. Mm-hmm. Because you're not necessarily trying to do an even match play type of thing every time. So,
we started to talk about that last week where, if you always have that tournament focus and you're always, like Ryan was saying, building to a keyword, building to the next tournament army, you're not really exploring the whole range of the army that you've chosen to play. There's probably a lot more out there, and it's time to do those narrative games, those things in the book, just to have some fun.
I know we're talking about campaigns and stuff. Has anyone seen that campaigns can sometimes hurt stuff? It can be like the death of a group. I know we're talking about it doing it, but I think I don't know, in my experience, I've seen all these campaigns they always just get steam and then die out after like 2 or 3 weeks.
I think a lot of that has to do with people tend to bite off more than they can chew when it comes to a campaign, and they're not necessarily sure of what they want from it.
Yeah.
Because I think especially people that aren't terribly experienced with running them, they think that more complicated is good.
Yeah.
Like the more in depth will make people more interested in reality, unless you're playing with like a handful of other people that have that in mind.
Share that same.
It's actually going to have the opposite effect. And people will think like, well, if we're just playing games that are barely linked together, then what's the point? But you kind of have to find a middle ground. And I think it's what it happens. You know, we did a campaign towards the end of 8th edition, but it had like 9 people in it, when we started. And it can be hard to get all those people to show up regularly to play all those games. So either if you're going to do something that incorporates a lot of people, that's fine. You can still do it. But you're going to want a campaign system that can run kind of fast and loose and incorporate that and be forgiving for people that can only make it like once a month or whatever to play a game, and not get overrun by people that can come in and play 2 games a week every weekend, because that can really skew things. Or if you want to do something that's really crazy in depth, that, every unit has to be paid for out of a persistent coin purse, and you want to name everything, and units continue from battle to battle with their losses. And it can get as in depth as you really want it. That's fine too. But, you'll obviously, the best way to do something like that is with a smaller group, and probably with somebody to run it that's not playing
in it.
So some kind of a campaign master, as it were, that knows what they're getting themselves into. But that can be a blast as well, because you can get all kinds of like political intrigue involved and things like that.
Crazy sideline stories and guys making backroom deals.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you just have to be honest with yourself what you as a group want out of it and what you're willing to put into it. So
I've always found that the best campaigns that are run, out of stores or clubs, what have you, are the ones that have a set 4 to 6 week or 4 to 6 turn limit, so that this isn't an ongoing thing where it does lose steam and it loses effort after a while. And it just becomes, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
If you have let's say we're going to do, 8 people, we're going to have 4 rounds, and these are the goals that everyone has to meet. And whoever scores the most of whatever system you're using is the ultimate winner. But there's a goal at the end. Once we've played the 4th month, it's over and we start something new. So it doesn't get stale.
So there's also other things you could do, like escalation leagues. As far as, that's a great way to, it kind of touches on the whole skirmish to path to glory thing that we mentioned. You can set up something where, people paint a unit a month or whatever, and continue to play gradually larger games and rotate around in some form of a round robin. Yeah. And before you know it, at the end of the year, everybody has a fairly good size painted Sigmar army. And those are pretty easy to run. They don't really require much.
No, and they can usually almost run themselves. If you just have a pretty easy freeform escalation league, and you don't, you're not some sort of dictator about it. You just let people do what they want, and build up a force that way. But when you play the escalation league games, you can only play what's built and painted. So, it's an artificial limit that people are putting on themselves if they get into it. So.
Yeah. You got an interesting one here, the new army tryouts. Swap armies with your buddies, and try different things. Like I've never played as Sylvaneth before. So
you could have an epiphany.
Let's not get crazy. But, I could swap that and somebody else could try to push the Iron Jaws around. Stuff, it totally spices things up, It's like coming up with a safety word or things like, you got to try new things. Keep it interesting.
50 Shades of Grey Plastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was just slipped out.
Yeah. So,
That's actually how I started playing all those years ago. Black Templars was during a swap the army day, and the way it was all set up is you brought your army, and you randomly drew somebody else, and you swapped with that person. And the first game you played that day was a reasonably long game. I think we gave it 2.5 hours, but you taught the other person how to play your army because they didn't necessarily know how to do it. Yeah. How to make it work. And I started playing the Black Templars, and I was like, okay, I think I'll be buying a few boxes of these because this is awesome. And I had been playing all the time up to that. I'd been playing Eldar and Ultramarines.
Oh, nice.
And I was just like, there's no way I'm going to play just a melee-based, no psyker army. That's just so stupid. And then when you realize how much fun they were, and this is back in, 4th edition? How much fun they were, really, because once they got into combat, forget it. They just deleted things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how I started. My first Black Templar army was on a swap day. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I used to do that with my uncle when we used to play Starfleet battles. You know, and I would play, he'd let me play the Federation, and he'd destroy me with the Klingons. I'd be like, okay, well, let me try the Klingons, and then he'd destroy me with the Federation. So,
so he was just better than you.
Yeah, very much better. So, try that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun, actually. It gives you a broader view of the game, and you see things from the other player's standpoint for a change. So, that can be helpful.
And finally, hobby sessions.
Yeah.
Just getting together with your group and painting and sharing tips on how to paint and model, especially if somebody in your group is really good at like conversions. I've never been good at conversions of seeing like what could be when I hold a model in front of my hand. I'm more of a guy that looks at the box and I'm like, okay, that's
what it's going to look like.
I'm buying it because I like the way that looks, not because I have some crazy mad scientist thing going on. So same thing with painting.
Yeah.
Usually you got that one guy in your group that is just
James
is much better, and they're usually more than willing to show you, you know, because everybody wants to play against nicely painted stuff. So usually they'll impart their tips to you as well.
Yeah, and you can have like, you know, one thing, I mean, we all have our friendly local game store. And if you really look around your friendly local game store, you could probably see a bunch of terrain that could use some revitalization. And why not help out the owner and, you know, say, hey, we're going to come out here. There's going to be 10 of us and we're going to redo all this stuff and we're going to paint it. And I bet you almost anything that the game store owner would be like, yeah, okay, and I'll buy the pizza or something. Right. You know, they'll because you're doing them a favor.
Sure.
Or maybe it's just your club terrain. Maybe you just get together at your club and you revitalize y'all's terrain, or you build new stuff. You know, you try out something from an article from a White Dwarf or somewhere you saw online and build new stuff. There's all kinds of things that you can do for a hobby day.
Definitely. So, that's about it. Try any one of those. Let us know.
Yeah.
You know, what you and your group are doing to, if you're not one of the guys kind of like us that are equally excited about both games, if you're pretty much just AOS centric, what are you doing to get through the drought, as it were?
Well, and it's kind of funny because, you know, we haven't been through this before because AOS is so new.
Yeah.
But there have been periods before where there was not a lot of releases for a system.
8th edition.
You know, well, yeah. But I mean, you know, it's...
And that's not to say that nothing's coming out. Like, we just got Skirmish. We're getting Path to Glory. We're getting the new General's Handbook and stuff. We're talking more of like new armies. You know, and
like if you think about it, for the last year before the drop of 40K, there was kind of a pretty major release every couple of months.
Yeah.
And a battle tome dropped, or, you know, a compilation battle tome like the Stormcast or the Khorne that tied everything together. Something dropped like that changed the scene to where there was a lot of stuff to discuss and talk about and go over. But right now we're in a spot now where I don't see a lot of stuff coming out before December, you know, January timeframe. I don't see a new battle tome coming out. I don't see a new force because
Yeah.
there's a lot of work to be done for 40K. And they're still giving us Path to Glory and the new General's Handbook. We all know that once that General Handbook drops, there's going to be a fundamental change to how this game is going. Even if it's just points changes, all
Sure.
the lists are going to change. We're going to see a new meta and have to figure out a new meta that's going to be out there. So there's a lot coming down the pike. It's just that we're not going to have any releases. So you kind of have to keep people interested. And, you know, chances are if you're listening to this podcast, you're not the target audience. But you have to look around your club and see maybe there's a guy that's kind of falling a little out of love with the game. And he's like, well, I don't know what do I do? So keep those people interested. Make sure they stay as players.
So next we're going to cover 2 years into Age of Sigmar.
It's crazy, ain't it?
Yeah. Man, I remember we've been around long enough to cover the 1 year mark and how we felt about that. That's interesting. Jeez. So, 2 years, and what do we have to show for it?
My wallet's significantly lighter.
Yeah. I know 40K is kind of stealing all the thunder right now, but I still maintain that Age of Sigmar is one of the most successful tabletop games of all time, considering, despite what some neckbeards on the internet say, Warhammer Fantasy Battles was dead.
Completely.
I mean, I know there was a fairly thriving tournament community and whatnot, but as far as the company making money off of it, and the bottom line is that's the most important thing, because that's how we're going to get new stuff.
Right.
It was dead. So,
yeah.
And then, Age of Sigmar dropped, and whether Games Workshop intended for some of the fallout to happen, or they just didn't quite handle it correctly, whatever.
Or they had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
No matter how they released it.
Maybe it's a combination of all of it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But to go from that point to where we are now, there's very few games that I would say are that. Maybe X-Wing would be just that popular that fast. So that's awesome. And the trajectory is still climbing, I feel. Yeah, we're having a little bit of a lull, as it were, right now, but I still think, especially once they start dropping new armies, kind of like the Overlords were, if they do drop elves or whatever are next, or a new Death Army, maybe a new Death Army, if they get around to dropping a new Death Army, it'll be crazy.
Yeah.
And people get really excited about it.
The trajectory, like you say, that's crazy. One of the notes I made on our show notes here was, I asked the question, is the meta dead? And I didn't mean that, is the AOS meta dead? What I meant is the idea of a meta dead? Because you look at the results from some of these different events, and there's all kinds of different things that are winning events. It's not, I put together this list and now it's thing and that's it. It's over. If you don't have that list, you're out of it. You see so many, just the other day we saw at Heat 3, you saw so many different armies climbing to the top tables.
Yeah, Squigs won it.
Yeah, exactly. An army of Squigs. Rob Symes was beside himself, I'm sure. If only he could have been on TV, we would have never heard the end of it. But Squigs won a major event.
Yeah, I think there is a meta, and I think there always will be. But I think Age of Sigmar, the difference between like Age of Sigmar and 8th edition Fantasy is because you're only working with 4 pools with the alliances, the Grand Alliances. You have so much more to pull from that there's more tweaks you can make, I guess.
Yeah.
As opposed to, back when you played High Elves and you could only pick High Elves things to try. So it was, the good units were very quick to rise to the top. And you still get that, like Disciples of Zinch are pretty strong in like a mixed chaos. But I think there's still so much more to the chaos stuff that people haven't really tapped into. And and some people may shake their head to that, but again, Squigs.
Yeah.
Won a heat. Like, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Not like people were talking about that beforehand.
And
what I
you know,
mean?
if you listen to the Neckbeards, the only thing that should have won that was Zinch because it's so overpowered.
Well, mixed chaos. You
Yeah.
know. Prime example, right, is Russ winning the Masters with his Tomb Kings. Because nobody was doing Tomb Kings before he was like, I think they're really good. I think they're really good. Look, I just won the Masters with them. I was telling you they're really good. Because everybody else was focused on, you know, Mu Clan and whatnot. You know what I mean? So I think the problem with the meta, like when lists like the Mixed Destruction and the Mixed Chaos rise to the top, is that there are a handful of good players that do take those armies and run with them and do well. But then there are so many other people out there who are just not creative enough or whatever to come up with their own list. So they buy that stuff. And then, you know, that might boost them up towards maybe a puncher's chance of taking home some hardware, but they're not really capable of doing it because they just don't understand how the army works. They're just,
Trying to go through the motions.
yeah, they
And
think the army will do it for them, and it just doesn't work that way.
That's why I bought a Zinch army. Was I figured I would be able to be good if I had Zinch,
Yeah.
and I realized I'm not going to be good even with Zinch. It's not going to be. I'm not good.
Well, you would have finally beat me.
That's not hard.
Yeah.
National TV.
No, whatever. Slow played me into a coma.
So
anyways,
to play the scenario.
I don't know. Like, I always feel like these lists that people bandy about as being like the top tier 1 lists or whatever. I don't know. I just don't necessarily agree with it because I think it's a list that does well because somebody at the top really did well with it. And then just so many people are trying to chase that and they're just not going to attain it.
Yep.
And so you're better off probably just coming up with a list to beat those. Because what'll happen is you'll play against the guys that aren't that good running that list. You'll smash them. And then, you know, you'll get catapulted to the top tables and play against the list that you designed your list to beat, but it is now being pushed by
Someone
people that,
who's a little bit
you know,
better.
potentially know what they're doing.
Well, and that's when, you know, you look at, I don't know what they're calling the end of the Heat 1, 2, 3. Are they calling it the Grand Tournament or I forgot what they named
The
it.
finals or something.
Finals.
Yeah, I don't remember what the name is.
Yeah.
You know, you can pretty much assume the names that are going to be at the top of that list.
I don't know, man. Come
There's
on now.
still that chance. And, you know, you look at like those guys that are just finally figuring out now that Seraphon are a really good answer to Zinch and a really good answer to Khorne because they do all kinds of damage to Chaos.
And demons.
So, yeah. And
So
you're-
other
yeah,
Seraphon
demons.
players.
Yeah, so other Seraphons. So, I mean, you're going to see different things. And that's why I said, you know, is the meta dead? I don't mean, you know, is there no meta? But I'm thinking we're still in a spot to where the meta is changing daily, you know, hourly, if you will, because you look at James, he'll go up there and win with Sylvaneth, he'll go up there and win with Stormcast. He's not taking the same list to every tournament and saying, okay, this is what I do to beat. He's taking different stuff and going up and placing well or winning at tournaments.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're in this spot where if you don't have this battle tome with this army, you can't go play competitively. We're in a wide open field where you can take just about anything except Seraphon and kidding and be competitive.
Yeah, I would agree with that to an extent, for sure. It's certainly more open than like 8th ever was.
Yeah.
8th, there were just books that just never had a chance against things like Warriors of Chaos, Demons of Chaos,
Right.
to a lesser extent like Dark Elves and High Elves, because the power just was not there. Whereas now it's like, you know, there's no reason that Order can't beat Destruction or Death can't beat Chaos. Like, I don't know.
Well, and a well-played Death can beat a well-played mixed Chaos. In the right hands, I'm sure it can be done. You know, it's. I think we're in that in 2 years, we're still at a point where it's not over. No one has unlocked the key to the instant win. And that's a fantastic thing for any game system where you still have balance, you still have everything out there is viable. Some obviously do rise to the top, but overall, anything goes in this game. And especially, if you look at the narrative, hell, anything goes because everything's viable. I think it's in a great place in 2 years.
For sure. So, touch on your second point here. Is there hope for death and destruction?
Well, and that was, my callback to the General's Handbook too. The rumors that are out there, and we know nothing about it, but the rumors that are out there is every faction that didn't get the Tzeentch Stormcast, treatment with the big buffs and the big spell list are getting something to put them back to relevance.
Well, there's 20 factions.
Yeah.
That are getting allegiance abilities and whatnot.
Yeah. So you look at, that's going to revitalize so many. And I mean, we bemoan it all the time that there's nothing new for death, nothing new for destruction. Well, in a lot of cases, death and destruction could really benefit from a couple more units getting the battle line tag.
Yeah.
And it would change them considerably just to have that. And, they're going to investigate all these different things. And I'm sure from the track record they've had lately that they're going to do this well. They're going to do it right. So we're going to see a lot more stuff be viable.
Yeah. Well, they mentioned Nighthawks are going to be a faction that gets a facelift.
Sure.
I would imagine Flesh Eater Courts will also be one.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly Death Rattle.
Yeah.
Because that's a fairly decent-sized faction within Death.
Just having abilities, allegiance abilities, and a spell list is going to go so far towards making them playable.
I don't know if they'll so much get a spell list. I think most armies are probably just going to get allegiance abilities and maybe a list of artifacts.
Why not
spells? Or something. Well, it's...
I could see them doing spells if they're going to go that far.
Yeah, if you're going to do
that would be awesome.
Because I think anything that gets allegiance abilities in this thing is an indication that you're not getting an update for the next foreseeable year, at least.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that might be the case.
And I think we've been saying since... Well, I think we mentioned this last time we were looking back, is that those other armies that have the new allegiance abilities and stuff, they're on a different power level. Yeah. And the other ones I think that we were, at one point, there was a rumor that they're going to release updated rules for all the other previous... I think there was a rumor at one point. And I think I said that, when they do that, it's going to bring up the power level of those other ones and put everyone kind of back on that equal footing we were on when we first had, the...
when it was just the compendiums.
The compendiums, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or the, what do they call them, indexes, or... I don't know. Grand Alliance books.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And everybody was kind of working off the same sheet of music except Stormcast. Because they were way cooler.
Well, okay. So, what about new Death and Destruction? What do you guys see coming down the pipe for that, do you think? What would you like to see?
I would just like to see new skeletons.
New zombies.
New zombies. But, that's model-wise. And that's just something to add a little bit of different feel to it. But honestly, if they gave some of those death factions the same treatment that they gave Khorne Bloodbound, not necessarily a whole bunch of new stuff, but tie it all together in a book that makes them at the same power level as everyone else, that could be really all you need to do. You look at destruction between Beastclaw Raiders and Ironjaws and Bone Splitters and all that stuff. If you had something that tied even, say, maybe all the orcs together.
Well, yeah, that's what Ryan was saying.
Yeah, it would be, and make them into a real viable, they'd be right up there. Same thing, like we were talking earlier, if Beastclaw Raiders had a couple of units that they could use to become competitive in all the scenarios, they would be a thing.
Yeah.
But right now, there's
we're talking
too many...
pure Beastclaw Raiders
pure Beastclaw.
Before people flip out.
Yeah, no.
I think we're talking about mixed destruction.
Yeah, no. Pure Beastclaw, they're at a serious disadvantage in several of the scenarios.
Yeah.
So, but if you fix that, if you adjust that to where they have something, then all of a sudden that tome becomes very viable again. Very viable.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking like new armies. Like something new and fresh.
What are you going to do new in Death?
I would like to see a Death army that is not beholden to Nagash.
Mm-hmm.
I think I hate Nagash. I think he's one of the weakest characters
Oh.
in Age of Sigmar and Warhammer Fantasy. He's a chump. Absolutely. I can't. Everything is gonna be mine. It's all eventually gonna be mine.
Well,
I want
he's
it
right.
all. Whatever. God, I can't stand Nagash.
Sounds like Sigmar there.
Huh?
Sounds like Sigmar
Yeah, you
there.
sounded like Sigmar for a minute there.
Well, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I can't stand Nagash and how he like, oh, you guys want me to help you? I'll help you. Psych.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Chaos and like, hey, I'll help you. And then they sucker punch him.
Yeah.
Every time, like he's just so
Predictable?
he's the Daffy Duck of Age of Sigmar. Like he just gets in Archeon is Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Right.
He pretty much just slaps him around
Yeah,
whenever he
every
needs
time.
to.
Every
and,
time. Just
Yeah.
what's up, Doc?
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. So it would be cool to see a Death Army that has like a completely new aesthetic, and is led by somebody who, because if you remember, Nagash was just a powerful necromancer who rose to become a god
By
by
whacking
whacking
others.
other gods. So why couldn't someone else out there rise to a power level to vie against
Sure.
Nagash?
I think if they did it with like
interesting.
an Egyptian theme, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, there's potential there in an endless desert somewhere, but
Shameless plug.
yeah, right. I don't know. I think that would be
It
really
would be.
interesting.
It would be
to see
really.
that. And then the flip side to that would be, it would be kind of interesting to see a destruction faction that is not so mindless,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, like, orcs have a level of cunning, but sometimes that doesn't always come through
Right.
in the writing and stuff. They just really look like,
Yeah.
they're just like giant zombies almost.
That
Sometimes
just
They
want to go kill
punch
stuff.
things.
Yeah.
And so it can be hard to tell a story about just them. A lot
Yeah.
of times they're the ones that are the backdrop to a fight or whatever. So I think it'd be interesting. Maybe I don't, if you could worship Gorka Morka and still, I don't know, have an IQ about you,
Yeah.
or maybe something completely new there as well that doesn't necessarily follow.
Doesn't have to be.
I don't know. Age of Sigmar is totally the setting to do things
Yes.
like that.
Take
Whereas it felt, back in the world that was, it was so pigeonholed. The roles
Right.
were.
You couldn't
that
do it.
Yeah, you couldn't. It was very hard to get outside that box.
But you could take a whole Beastman army that was destruction and actually was working towards all of that stuff while going for Gorka Marka
Yeah.
and just have all kinds of great fun with that and just explore a whole new way of fighting where we don't have to be just mindless. We can have mages that do regular spells that make some sense, and we don't just charge headlong, and all our abilities aren't about just throwing ourselves onto your swords and seeing if we can mow you under with our weight of numbers.
Yeah.
So,
Or
yeah.
how cool would it be to have like a destruction army that actively hates chaos specifically and hunts chaos, but they're not an order. They don't owe any allegiance to Sigmar. They're just doing it because their motivation is if chaos wins, everything goes away.
Yeah.
Which means no more fighting.
Yeah.
So we got to get rid of these guys to keep the party going.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are the fuzz that's going to kick open the door
Yeah.
and
Ruin everything.
Get rid of the keg, and I'm not going to have that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, there's so many ways to go with it, and I truly believe they've only scratched the surface right now.
absolutely, yeah.
So
I mean, look at the Overlords, the Karajan Overlords. Like they're Duartan, and that's about where everything
Similarity
similar
ends.
to previous iterations of Duartan stuff. I mean, the technology and things like that, but they totally took that in a crazy new, awesome direction.
Mhm.
So, I don't see why they couldn't do that with I don't know, goblins even,
sure.
or some Egyptian themed dude in a chariot. I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, they don't, it looks to me like right now there are no sacred cows other than Stormcast Eternals. They're willing to separate anything from the herd.
So, okay, Stormcast. And maybe we've touched on this before, but the obvious one would be for some of them to fall to chaos, which I've said repeatedly is one of the stupidest things they could do. Please don't have Stormcast fall to chaos.
No.
That would be so boring to have the Horus Heresy in Age of Sigmar.
I think even they see that would be a cliche.
But what about death?
Mm-hmm.
What if Nagash reverse engineers that magic and figures out how to keep those souls, especially the ones that die so often they lose their mind?
Yeah.
And then he's just like, oh, well, same power. You just work for me.
You're just working for me now, buddy.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that idea, but I guess if they were, because I would like this, the Stormcast to just stay with Sigmar and I'm kind of over this whole, let's take an existing army and repurpose it for another faction.
Right.
Because they did that so much with Chaos.
Yes.
They don't necessarily need to do it, but I think, I don't know, it has potential.
It does. But like you said, there's also so many other ways to go.
Absolutely.
And they can do anything they want. And so far, they've hit them all out of the park. Everything has been new and different and crazy. And I think we're just starting to see Caradron Overlords. We're like that 6-month lull from the release to when they really start hitting the scene. I think we're going to start seeing some new and novel builds for that army.
Yeah.
And see how it really will affect things going forward. Because it's got a lot of good things going for it. It's got a lot of drawbacks, but it's supposed to. It can't just be the...
Sure.
I win everything. So I think we're just going to start to really see how that army plays out.
James? Anything? No?
No.
What kind of crazy competitive list would you like to see come out in the near future? What would you like to see dominate the tournament meta?
Something close combat oriented.
Yeah? Do you think that'll come from modifications made in the General's Handbook? Or just new armies coming out?
Just new armies.
Yeah.
I think the rules and stuff are fine the way they are. It's just, I think, just recently it's just the armies that we've had recently are skewed towards shooting.
The 3 of the 4 this year.
Yeah. Have
Very
been
shooty.
skewed towards that. So that's why, and the new stuff is usually pretty good.
Well, yeah, not only the 3 of the 4 releases this year, but since, because Sylvaneth were the first to get the revamp, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, we've gotten...
Sona, Bone Splitters.
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to Blades of Corn are really the only close combat oriented.
Yeah, I mean, because Stormcasts they are a shooting army.
And what they
well,
added,
they certainly can be devastating and shooting.
well, and what they added during this last go round was all about shooting.
Yeah, Beast Claw Raiders throw snowballs. That's just what they do, and then they send in the boss to tear things up. Sylvaneth shoot. Disciples of Zinch shoot.
A lot.
Caradron Overlords shoot. So pretty much ever since the revamp, we've gotten
All just shooting
all
armies.
shooting armies, except for Blades of Corn. And surprise, surprise, for them to compete, they kind of need to squeeze some cannons in there so they can shoot back. So, yeah, it would be maybe with the General's Handbook 2017 adding potentially allegiance abilities and artifacts and spells to armies like Flesh Eater Corps and Iron Jaws, Fire Slayers. Maybe that will boost, because it feels like some of those armies are almost on the cusp. Like Iron Jaws and Fire Slayers. I don't know so much about Flesh Eaters, and that might just come from the fact that I haven't played against pure Flesh Eaters a lot. But, maybe they just need that little bit of a boost to get them up there, really just to get them into combat quick. And
That's the biggest thing is if you give them a movement, if you give them a lightning chariot. If you give Ghoul Patrol a lightning chariot, forget it, it's over.
Or maybe some Rend.
Yeah,
I always found that's the problem.
Or
But-
Mortal Wounds.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, because it seems like a lot of the stuff for death in general, really, it's basically a whole army of chaff and then 2 dudes on dragons
Mhm.
that fly around doing all the heavy lifting.
Well, and still, with the
Or a
mechanics
Morgul.
that you can have in Death to where you don't need, I laugh about throwing Ghoul Patrol across the table. It would be good, but don't change how they fight, because if you make them powerful as well, you ruin everything. If you still leave them with that mechanic of, I run up there, I engage all of your shooters, and yes, you kill me, but I keep coming back faster than you can kill me, and now my 2 guys on dragons can go around and, have a chance at beating your face in. That's really what it lacks right now, is that movement, that ability to get across the table quickly. Ghoul Patrol takes care of a lot of that with the ability to come in on any side you want. But then once you're committed and it's over. So,
Well, another problem is the synergies, because Death really revolves around synergy, being around other units. And
Yeah.
so if you're just throwing little ghoul units in on the side.
yeah, they do nothing without the Ghoul King.
Right.
So-
So,
An item or ability to help keep him alive.
something.
-1 to
yeah.
get -1 to get shot against. If he gets a mirror shield
Yeah.
or
the
something
mirror shield,
similar,
Yeah.
make -2 to hit. That could make a huge
Or,
difference.
what's the Chaos one that's -1 to be shot the first round?
Oh,
Oh, golly.
I could look
Master
up.
of Deception or something like that? Or-
Mm,
I don't remember.
yeah.
But if they had something like that, where the first round, if it was like a Flesh Eater Court specific ability,
Right.
all of a sudden
First turn -1. Yeah.
that helps them get that much closer
Sure.
to fight. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, there's so many different myriad of ways that they can address these issues, and I'm sure they're going to do it. I'm sure.
Don't make it available for all of Death. Make it available, just Flesh Eater Court
Sure.
or Death Rattle.
Well, and Death Rattle
Yeah,
should
just
have
Death
something
Rattle
different.
because Chariot, Tomb King Chariots are Death Rattle, but
Yeah.
Tomb King Chariots are really hard to get a hold of
Yeah.
for newer players. So the newer players, if they want to do a Death Rattle army, it's going to be Foot Skeletons and Black Knights.
Yeah.
So it's not a whole lot to necessarily work with.
Snakes.
Snakes.
Snakes are death rattle.
Right, again, but all the Tomb
Yeah,
King
yeah.
stuff is just hard to get a hold of. So,
That's true.
I don't know. These guys have been doing it for a while. I'm pretty sure they know what they're doing. So,
Yeah, and we're 2 years in, and there have been, other than the rollout, there have been very few missteps. The rollout could have possibly been done better.
yeah, I don't know. Have they really ever since then? Have you? I don't know. What's the low point? What's the high point for you in the last 2 years of Age of Sigmar? Not necessarily like things you liked. Maybe where you felt like the company dropped the ball, but then one where you felt they did an end zone dance. I don't know. Keep that metaphor going.
I would go back to, and really the touchdown for me, I think, would be the Khorne Bloodbound book, because of what it did to the existing groups of models that were out there and
You mean
tied
Blades of Khorne.
Blades of Khorne. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Blades of Khorne book. The way it tied everything together and then built in a synergy that all those things could use. And it showed me anyway that they can fix the game without having to change the game to the point to where it loses that flavor, that quick play, that simple rule structure. It keeps all that. As far as a low point, it's strictly personal for me. The low point would be buying a Tzeentch army that I didn't want. So,
Well, fair enough.
just because I'm stupid. So.
Blame it on the NyQuil haze. You were in a NyQuil haze.
There was a period there where I was, kind of in a funk.
James,
What was the question?
what do you feel was like
High and low points.
A high and low points for the company, kind of, not like a model you liked and a model you didn't like. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about overall in the last 2 years.
Low point and high point all in one.
Uh-oh.
Asking for opinions on Facebook.
Oh yeah, that is a
Yeah.
very sharp double-edged sword when you ask the internet what it feels about something.
Yes.
Again, do not pity the poor bastards that got to dig through that.
Oh, I know.
For me, high point, I want to say Caradhran Overlords,
Yeah.
and not necessarily as an army, but more as an aesthetic, a theme to show, like, because to me it felt like the first time they were like this is a Mortal Realms army. This is what we're going to do with this game.
They were willing to cut the cord with the old world.
Yeah. Like, we're just going to do something new and crazy, and it worked. It looks so cool. I can't wait to have the army built and on the table. Every time I watch battle reports with it, it just looks cool. I know I've kind of been down mechanic rules wise, and I'm sure my opinion will change when I start getting a bunch of games under my belt or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like just the aesthetic and the feel of the army, the look of it is such a high point. And then the low point, Sylvaneth? No. No, I'm just kidding. Would be the lore. Up until recently with like City of Secrets, and I know we're starting to get some other stuff, it has been almost nothing but Stormcast.
Yeah.
From the Stormcast point of view, and while I love the army and I love the idea of them, they are boring.
Yes.
I don't mean to insult any Black Library authors or anything. I think they were kind of restricted with what they were allowed to do in the beginning, and that's why we're seeing them branch out and get things like City of Secrets, and I've heard Plague Garden is actually very good.
Yeah,
I
really
haven't gotten to that one yet, but the initial writing of the lore for Stormcast felt to me like reading about Space Marines before the Horus Heresy, before that team of writers were allowed to give Marines
personality,
character. Yeah. I'm sure we'll get more of that with the Stormcast. They'll develop more personality and become interesting to read about, as opposed to, don't go down that way. Oh, Sigmar will protect me. Don't go down that way. Oh, I'm dead. Like, I told you not to go that way.
It's so true. So many of the books were like,
yeah.
Should we enter the Bridge of Woe? No, don't go to the Bridge of Woe. We will go across the Bridge of Woe.
It always reminds me of like, those cartoons where they come to that fork in the road, and one is like butterflies flying, sunlight drifting through, the green trees, and then the other is like this black path, and there's glowing eyes, and every flipping time the Stormcasts go down the dark path because Sigmar will protect me, bro. And it's like, oh, but he didn't. And you're dead.
And so now
you didn't accomplish your goal despite literally everyone around you telling you that wasn't how it was going to pan out for you.
Yeah, it's
only the faithful, or maybe only the dumbasses. I don't know. Like, but again, it's getting better.
Yeah,
the fluff is branching out,
and that's the whole thing. Is City of Death actually was
City of Secrets.
City of Secrets, yeah. So you can tell where my head is.
Yeah.
Death. But yeah, it was such a refreshing read to not have their point of view, to have a real old world kind of lore book out there.
But in the new
Mortal Realms.
It just, and for me, City of Secrets scratched a lot of itches.
Oh yeah,
they
need
so
a lot more. And really, what they could use is what they should be doing is a book about Stormcast that humanizes the Stormcast a little bit.
Sure,
give me a chamber that maybe has a few self-doubts, maybe wonders about why are we here.
Well, I think some of them do that, but then the fighting starts and then they get
lockstepped,
burn, maim, kill.
And what I always liked is the Relictors, to me, were always the ones that questioned everything, and they were the ones that had the brains. But then, of course, the Celestant would come up and go, "Hell no, we're charging."
Yeah.
Okay.
Sigmar told me to jump off this cliff. Sigmar will protect us. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just... it's scary, and But the way the Relictors are so tied to the realm of death, they actually have that. No, dude, that's probably a bad.
Yeah.
Okay, he's going off anyway. All right, everybody follow him because he's.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back again later.
Yeah, well, we'll be reformed. It's okay. So. But yeah, I mean that's really it. It's been 2 years, and I think we were all struggling to find low points. So
yeah, definitely. The game hits for me. You know, it's good stuff.
It is. It's fun. It's good stuff. So do we have anything else we want to do before we close out?
Rolling Bad Rumble.
What's that?
I don't even know anymore.
Really?
GT. You're in Albuquerque. Coming up.
Don't forget to sign up beforehand.
Yes. Please. You will need to sign up if you are coming on our website, please.
Yep. It's through the ITC Best Coast Pairings.
If you have any questions on any of it, get a hold of us. Tweet us, email us, send us a carrier pigeon. I don't know, smoke signals, whatever.
Yeah.
But let us know.
Yeah, I think we'll have the refund date to like a couple days before. So
yeah.
If you're not sure, buy that ticket and then you can always request a refund if you're not going to be able to make it or whatever.
So come on down. And we just want to touch real quick. Apparently some questions have come up about the painting restrictions or whatever we have. It's basically, it says in there a base coat and a wash or a highlight. So it's really not meant to be that restrictive. Just put down your base coats on your model and dip it practically. And that qualifies it. We're not trying to keep anybody out. We just want to have painted armies.
Yeah. And painted neatly does not mean Golden Demon. It means,
It means you didn't use a large dry brush to put the detail on the guy.
To paint your rivets. It's really not meant to restrict anybody.
Yeah, it's not super restrictive.
We just
want painted armies
on round bases.
Or else.
All right.
All right. So with that, we will consider episode number 29 done.
Put the bunny back in the box.
Welcome to the Rolling Bad Podcast, episode number 29. Coming to you from the... Oh, we didn't even do a sound check.
I just sat there and I said, oh, we forgot the sound check. So let me just stop that one. All right?
Well, excuse me, princess.
Does anybody else have a community shout out?
Community what?
Shout out. Oh, God. You're the one that said we need to do more of this community stuff.
Let's see. Nope. I'll have one next time.
I popped this one on you.
Fatality.
The Realm of Battle.
Do that again, because it happened right in the middle.
The Realm of James' iPad effing everything up.